Sports Talk Line Network is proud to bring you Joshua Griffith.
Nate?
Yeah, no.
Oh, we're good? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh. So I am so very happy to welcome back to the show Vancouver Whitecaps CEO and Sporting Director, Axel Schuster.
I want to cover playoff hockey in Vancouver. I want the fans to enjoy and experience playoff hockey in Vancouver. I want the Canucks to win a Stanley Cup for this city.
Just, as I said, wild. It's not what you would expect, other than good football, which the NFL, I got to say, they're doing a heck of a job of delivering.
You can't diminish what he's done. And this isn't just to be an honorary award. I think the numbers that he's put together on both sides are warranted of an MVP.
You went right for the crest and gave it a big kiss as you were running towards the fans. It was.
Oh, what's so funny, honestly, like, I always was laughing about players who do that because I'm like, come on, stop this shit. And it just happens out of emotion.
Here's your host, Joshua Griffith.
That is correct, Don Andrews. I am your host, Joshua Griffith. This is the Unnamed Sports Show here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. Today on the show, we have a great guest for you. Going to be talking some NFL, going to be talking some NHL. We're going to be talking how he got his way into the mass media and all of the different little things that he is covering right now. So my guest today is Adnan Virk, and we're going to get to him in a minute. But of course, before that, we're going to make sure we take care of some housekeeping duties. So make sure to hit the like button down at the bottom. Subscribe to the Sports Talk Line YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at Joshua Griffith0. And of course, check out the Sports Talk Line website because we got March Madness coming up, and it's going to be a lot of fun, or maybe it's going to be some March Madness. That was too easy. I shouldn't have taken that one. But regardless, we've gotten the housekeeping out of the way. Really excited to chat a little bit about everything sports on the show with Adnan. And without further ado, let's get right to the interview. All right, so I'm so thrilled to be joined by my guest today. Works for the MLB and NHL networks, host of the GM Shuffle and Cinephile podcast, the one and only Adnan Virk. Adnan, thanks so much for joining me today.
Of course, Josh. Good to see you, man. I love your setup. I love the Canucks stuff. You got the white caps. I mean, I'm having memories here of Tony Tanti way back in the day when you look at those old school Canucks jerseys.
Oh yeah, I got the black skate logo. They brought it out the other night against Calgary and absolutely dominated them. So it's staying on the wall for a little bit, but it's a rotating jersey thing.
No, I love it. And that's the whole key. You got to set up your place properly. I mean, my basement, I have a lot of stuff there because I'm not really sure how to frame it properly, but I'm impressed. Not only the memorabilia, but the way you've structured it. So it's good by you. Well,
thank you very much. I always love to get compliments on it. Yeah, and I try to have a little bit of everything. I mean, you'll probably see a little bit like Ken Reed's book in the background. There's a Bark Andre Fury bobblehead, the dog, nice. The Vegas's mascot dog. So I got a little bit of everything. So obviously, I know there's just a ton to chat about. I want to keep it wide open to start things. We move into the third month of 2022, and we've had the Winter Olympics. My Rams won the Super Bowl.
Oh, no, I didn't know you're a Rams fan. Okay, congrats.
Yeah, there's some Rams stuff right up on that shelf there. That one's
so you can check the GM Shuffle. I mean, you get verified with the archives. At the start of the year, Lombardi predicted Chiefs-Packers, and I predicted Rams-Chiefs. Rams win. So I was thrilled that I was right. Now, of course, I did not pick the Bengals. I don't know anybody else in the world who actually picked the Bengals, picked the Super Bowl. But I like this Rams team from the beginning. I love McVay. I think he's a wonderful coach. I figured with Stafford getting there, they also get a huge boost at quarterback. Aaron Donald is one of the great defensive players of all time. And then, of course, they made some moves there. I mean, bringing guys like Von Miller and OBJ. And it's great to see, man. I'm pumped for the Rams. I was happy to see it.
Okay, well, let's start with the Super Bowl then. What storylines did you like of it? I mean, obviously the refereeing was a storyline, but I thought that was kind of par and parcel with what we get every year or every match in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there were some definitely blown calls there. I mean, I know the Rams are furious. The fact that, one of those, I mean, they're literally, their defender got mugged, and all of a sudden the Bengals were able to be fortunate enough to get a touchdown out of it. But they kind of made some makeup calls, I think, down the stretch there. A couple of those calls you normally would not see that a receiver getting called, and the Rams were able to take advantage of that. But ultimately, I look at it as when there was under 5 minutes to go, Stafford's a great fourth quarter quarterback, and he's great at leading comebacks for his team. and him and Cooper Kupp were able to deliver. And like I said, Aaron Donald, I mean, that final series, the Bengals, you go, all right, McPherson's got such a strong leg. He can make a field goal from 57 yards. You just get to the 40, the Bengals had a field goal here. And instead, I believe that 2nd and 1, they went down the field. It was like a long bomb. I just thought it was a bad play call. And then the 3rd and 1, Donald gets in the backfield, stuffs the running back. I think it was Pirine. And then the next play after that was obviously, again, Donald putting pressure on, shovel pass, game over. So I like seeing a Super Bowl where the stars step up and deliver, which is what you saw with Donald, Stafford, and Kupp. I don't think it was a great game start to finish, Josh. Like, I just think it was a little bit sloppy. The play calling, I think, on both sides a little bit questionable. But you get a close game, a game decided in the final 5 minutes. Pretty epic halftime show. Shout out to Dr. Dre. Overall, it was a good night.
Yeah, that was a pretty epic halftime show for sure. That kind of, after a bit of a slow first start, I think that really got everybody back into things for, okay, let's go. And then obviously the missed call right to start the 3rd quarter that gave the Bengals all the momentum there. Some might say the Bengals even lost that game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Burrows is a wonderful quarterback. He's going to be great for years to come. And Lombardi paid him the highest compliment. He said in some ways he kind of reminds him of Brady. He's like, he's unassuming, but the moment's never too big for him, and he seems to capture and seize the moment. And obviously Chase is an incredible receiver. I just worry about their offensive line. I do think for the Bengals to get back there, we often see how hard it is for teams to repeat. The Bengals have to improve that offensive line. Listen, they got the Super Bowl. I give them full credit. I'm not saying that they were fortunate, but they stepped up when need be. The fact that the Chiefs went down, I just kept thinking, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you watch the Super Bowl and you say, oh my God, we could have won the Super Bowl. If the Bills had won that game against the Chiefs, who knows what would have happened against Cincinnati. But I think the Bills really would have given the Rams a better game.
Well, the Bills and the Chiefs, I think, are going to be the two teams battling it out in the AFC for a lot of years to come with how they've set up their organizations right now.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they just got really strong cores. Obviously, it all begins with their quarterbacks, with Mahomes and Allen. But I think they've got key pieces around them, which is often just as important. For every Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs, strong coaches. Whether you look at McDermott or Reed, although both those guys have had better moments. I mean, this McDermott, I still can't believe did not just kick that ball. I mean, it's just still so shocking the fact that they kicked that ball in the end zone and gave Mahomes a ball to 22 plays, and boom, they kicked the field goal, goes to overtime. But regardless, Brian Dable, they're going to miss their offensive coordinator. Leslie Frazier's a good defensive coordinator. Even Andy Reid said yesterday, Josh, the fact he's surprised that Eric Bieniemy is still the offensive coordinator. And I would agree. I mean, I would have thought at this point their offense has been so great, he get a job somewhere. But I do think Chiefs and Bills definitely the head of the class.
Well, even after last season, Eric Bieniemy was like, that was one of the names that everybody was like, okay, well, he's moving to another team. It's just which team is he moving to? And I kind of thought it was going to be the same this offseason. But yeah, it looks like he wants to stay with the Chiefs. So I guess that says a lot about their organization.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, listen, if he got bold with a great offer, he'd probably take it. But for now, stick with the Chiefs. And pretty good when you can run your offense with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback.
Absolutely. So I'm joined here by Adnan Virk on the Unnamed Sports Show. And it seems like we had a bit of a GM shuffle, and not the podcast like the one that you host, but just a GM shuffle in general in the NHL this season. We saw the Canucks bring in Patrick Kane. Blackhawks just recently removed the intern label from Kyle Davidson. What has been your favorite move by an organization off the ice so far this year?
Well, just a thought on Davidson. I think that he's a guy that obviously Stan Bowman brought him in. At one point, he was the intern. When you look at his path from 2010 on, an assistant in various capacities, eventually the assistant general manager, now he gets the job. So I think it's going to be an interesting challenge for him there with Chicago, because obviously Marc-Andre Fleury's unrestricted free agent. He's going to go somewhere, but they've got some restricted free agents, Dominic Kubalik among them, that it's going to be interesting to try to decide who stays, who goes. They've given up a lot of picks. They invested heavily in Seth Jones, but their defense overall is pretty worrisome. So Brian Lawton, the former number 1 overall pick and former GM and agent, great guy, obviously works with the NHL Network. He was suggesting trading Patrick Kane, shouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. They're definitely going to get offers for Kane. I don't think he will get moved, but the fact that you could get a quality player plus a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick. I mean, he's 33 years old. He's got one more year left in a contract, along with Jonathan Taves. Taves, obviously, his game has passed him by, but does Kane want to stay and be able to pass Dan Mikita in every major category as Mr. Blackhawk? Or does he want to chase a cup and go get a ring? You're 33 years old. It's a very small list of teams and players, I should say, with 3 Stanley Cups. It's an even smaller list with 4. That's a big separation. Patrick Kane can say I'm a 4-time Stanley Cup champion versus just a 3, which is obviously still impressive what he and Taves are able to do with the Blackhawks. So I think Davidson specifically has his work cut out from there with Chicago, but I love the trade deadlines coming up. I'll be on the NHL Network from 2 until 5 that day, going through all the trades. We're doing some stuff on Sportsnet back home, me and Brian Lawton together. So I look forward to it, man. I mean, it's a great time of year, especially the fact that, hockey had overcome the horrible wave there with Omicron and all the games being rescheduled. But the fact that I think that they're going to be, listen, knock on wood, no other variants. It's been 2 years of this epic disaster. Hopefully the rest of the season is not impacted. We have 2 more months left of the regular season. Hopefully it will be an incredible playoffs. I can't wait, specifically because I think in the West, we all feel like Colorado's a team to beat for good reason. But in the East, it's just interesting. You go, man, Tampa Bay, Florida, Carolina, and then the drop a little bit to the Leafs and the Bruins, the Penguins. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's so much you brought up there with the with the NHL trade deadline and just the push for the playoffs there. Like the Eastern Conference standings, they almost looked set for the longest time, and now we kind of seem to have a little bit of parity there with with Columbus. They were slightly making a push, but now they're not. But I mean, I look at any of those 8 teams in the Eastern Conference, and realistically, I can see a way to them winning a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I've never seen that before, Josh, where you looked at it as of a few weeks ago, even at the All-Star break, and you said to yourself, I think all the teams in the Eastern Conference are set. I'm with you. Like, I was trying to make a case for the Red Wings, but I'm like, no, they've obviously got this great rookies in Raymond and Sider. You'll say to yourself, well, maybe the Islanders, because they had so many games in hand, but they've been a real colossal flop and disappointment. Yeah. Even if you have games in hand, you're still going to win. They haven't been able to do so. And then after that, you say to yourself, okay, maybe it's Columbus, because you're right. They were hard charging. But even now, I believe 10 points back with the game in hand, like you'd really have to put together like a 700, 750 win percentage and hope that Boston just completely falls flat on their face, which I don't think is going to happen. So I've never seen that before where the Eastern Conference playoff picture was already set at the All-Star break. It's wild.
Yeah, and it's really just now like jockeying for positions and some like looking for favorable matchups. The Leafs are like, well, who do we want to play in the first round? Who do we want to eventually lose to in the first round?
I completely agree. Listen, the Leafs haven't won a first-round playoff series, as you and I both know, since 2004, and I don't think it's going to happen. Like this year, I'm like, how are they going to win? Like you're right that you could face the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. You could face a loaded Florida Panthers team. I mean, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and my dad reminds me every year of when they've last won championship games and playoff games and all that stuff. So I know, but even he's like, I don't think that they're doing anything this season. Like they're not better than Tampa Bay and they're not better than Florida. And if they fall lower into a wild card seat, well, they're not beating whoever comes out tops in the Metropolitan.
Yeah, your dad is absolutely right. And the real concern now lately is Jack Campbell. I mean, their goaltending, I believe since February 7th, their goals against is like 24th in the NHL. So you say, all right, same old story. Like the Leafs, they've got offensive firepower, although those guys have disappeared come playoff time. But let's suppose Matthews and Marner and Tavares doesn't score a goal in like 12 games. But let's suppose those guys do step up, Nylander, and have a really strong showing. Okay, well, who's to say their defense is going to stand up? Like Campbell, 7 goals allowed, that loss against Detroit. Yeah, they won 10-7. You give up that many goals, it's pretty horrible. And I mean, it's going to be interesting. Jake Muzzin coming back should help. I do think Muzzin obviously is a good defenseman. Maybe they'll make a move at the trade deadline and try to get another defenseman, but Campbell's kind of their guy. Mrazek's their backup. I'm with you. I do not see them beating a Florida Panthers team with Sergei Bobrovsky and their offensive talent, or the Lightning and Vasilevsky and the defending Cup champions. I just can't see it.
So let's move out west briefly to the team that this market focuses on the most, is the Vancouver Canucks, and they were kind of making a brief playoff run. They're flirting with whether they want to trade all their players or whether they want to actually go for a push now that they have their new front office and head coach. What do you make of what the Canucks have been doing this season?
Yeah, it's interesting. I love Bruce Boudreau. I mean, Gabby's a phenomenal guy. I mean, we got to work together a few times at NHL Network. And in fact, his final shift at NHL Network, it was me and the aforementioned Brian Lawton. And it was 6 to 8 Eastern. And normally when you get to the top of the hour, they get a little bit of a break, just a few minutes, because then the games actually start and we go surfing. So he was like, I got to take a call. Can I just step out for a second? I'm like, okay, fine, a couple minutes. Gone for like 15 to 20 minutes. I'm like, oh my God. And so Lotz said that it was something to do with the Spengler Cup. I'm like, okay, whatever. But Bruce was like noticeearly distracted. Like a couple of times wasn't paying attention. We were coming at a break. Like his name is Gabby, but he wouldn't stop talking. Like, Bruce, are you paying attention? Like, you got your earpiece in, your IFB? He's like, oh, sorry guys, no, my bad. So afterwards, lots kind of said to me like, "Oh, what's going on?" Like, I'm like, I don't know. And I believe it was on a Thursday. I want to say Saturday, the word came out he was going to be the coach of the Canucks. I'm like, oh, okay, so that call was probably very important. He was not calling a travel agent, but maybe talking to his agent or the Vancouver Brass. Right, what time can I get up there? And knowing Bruce, I went back to his place, packed up all his stuff, flew out to Vancouver to meet everybody. So it was pretty funny that would end up being his last appearance with us. But he's a phenomenal guy, always upbeat, always positive, just loves to talk hockey. What's surprising to me is I just always picture Bruce Boudreau. Maybe it's just me. I always picture him as being very offensive minded, and it seems to be in go, go, go. But like Vancouver's defense has been noticeably improved. Like I was looking at stats the other day, and I said, wow, Bruce has really done a good job of tightening things up defensively. And I feel like more than anything, I know it's a cliche, but those guys who are squeezing the sticks so hard seem a lot more relaxed and just a lot more at ease. Everyone knows that Elias Pettersson and Horvat, I mean, they have talent there, Quinn Hughes, but it's just a matter of, meeting expectations. And again, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. It's going to be too much of a reach, I think. But the fact that Bruce is there, they're in a better position than they were prior to him being there, which is a real good thing.
I hope they don't make the playoffs, but that's just me, because obviously I'm looking forward a little bit more to the future, and I think that's something that they should be doing as well. But that's really curious that you were on the air with Bruce Boudreau when he got the call. We chatted with Michael Russo before about Bruce Boudreau, and he just had so much just glowing things to say about his love of hockey. And you mentioned the go, go, go thing. I think that's really kind of helped towards the defensive posturing of this team, because I think a lot of the lapses that we would see before with the Canucks they were missing the offensive players, or just the fluidity of the team to go, and you kind of saw it in the defeat against the New Jersey Devils. Well, wingers weren't going to get back and being supportive for the defensemen, and it was leading to the puck in their back of the net.
Yeah, I think that's what happens, right? Whenever I look at teams and they say, well, the goaltending suspect, the team, the defense is very good. I'm like, listen, it impacts your entire team. The forwards have to be back checking. Everybody has to be involved. That's why it's called team defense. That's one of my issues as we were talking with Chicago. I just think their team defense isn't very good. So I think you're right. I think that Bruce has tried to instill the fact that, hey, it's not just defensemen being defensively responsible. It's not just the goaltender making the saves that he has to make. It's also forwards back checking. That's a big part of it.
So I got a couple more questions for you, because I know you're running short on time, Adnan. Thanks so much for joining me again. But I can't have a Score alumni on my show without bringing up some of the Score days, because that was right around all of my high school sports careers, and I would just devour hours and hours of your guys' sports coverage. I've got some great stories in the past from Donovan and Caroline about some of the shenanigans that maybe happened around the studio. Crew Pit 4, I believe. But what do you have for me, Adnan? What were the Score days like for you?
Well, it's great. I'm so grateful. I still get to keep in touch with so many of the guys. Cabby and I are good friends from our days back at Ryerson. So I've known him since 96, been friends for over 25 years now. So we were friends at Ryerson together, and we got the job together at the Score. John Melville was our boss, and Cab and I got the interview from a guy named Steph Gagnon, who I'm from Kingston originally. He was from the Kingston area as well. And he was like, I'm not a sports guy, but he's a tech guy, audio and camera, all that kind of stuff. He's like, I can get you guys in there for an interview. So you met John Melville, who was the boss, really nice guy. And Cab was great in the meeting. He was so charismatic. And he would literally at one point jumped out of the chair and he started miming like a vacuum. He was like, I'll vacuum this place. I'll clean up your stuff. I don't think he started touching the way he started touching athletes, but he definitely invaded John's personal space. And then we went and met Mark Hebscher, and Hebscher actually asked us that point of the year. I think this is 96, 97, because Cav and I in our first year was 96. So I want to say this was 97, maybe 98, something like that. He said, who was the player at that point was whoever the player was going to win the Art Ross under 100 points. So he said, who's the last NHL player to win a scoring race under 100 points? And Cab looks at me, because Cab was not a big hockey guy. He has become so over the years, but at the time he's a big football guy, basketball, a little baseball. So kind of looks at me, knowing that I like hockey, and I was like, And I had no idea. And at one point, it sounded like Hebsy said Stas, something like that. So I knew he didn't mean Peter Stastny, but he meant Czech. I think Stas maybe in Czech means fast or whatever it is. But he said Czech, and I go, Stan Mikita. He was like, yeah. I'm like, yes. So Cap was like, all right, boom, we passed the test. We got Stan Mikita. I'm like, all right, so it's good. So he and I ended up being writers for Hebsy and Greg Sansoni, who later became our colleague and later became our boss. And I only lasted maybe 6 weeks, because then I got a job at TSN. I was at Ryerson at the time, as I said. Me and Cab were were just graduating our second year at Ryerson. So then I got a job at TSN, and then I went there and I worked behind the scenes for over 4 years. At a great time, great friends, especially David Amber and James Duffy and Darren Tish and Rod Smith, and a lot of other close friends behind the scenes, which became invaluable to me. And then eventually I got a job at Omni. I worked there for a year and a half. That was my first big break on TV. And then the floor director there, his name was Nick Ciccone. His cousin Anthony was running the score. So he sends my tape to Anthony, which was incredibly generous of Nick. Anthony says, all right, your stuff's okay. You get a little bit of grooming, but let's keep in touch. Maybe 6 months after that, I'll have you in for audition. I get the job. And the only people that remembered I had been there initially, aside, of course, from Cap, was Micaleff and Sid. Because I think Micaleff kept it. He goes, Micaleff goes, you used to work here. He goes, like, this was now like 2003. And Micaleff said, you were here like 5 years ago. He said, I remember you were Cabby's friend. I'm like, yeah. So it was kind of funny. People don't often realize I was briefly at the Score for 6 weeks, gone for 4.5 years. And then I came back as an actual anchor. And I worked as all those guys were as faceless voices I was for about 8 months. And then I finally got a chance in horse racing. And then eventually that led to filling in stuff with Caroline and Ryan Payton and others. And then eventually I got to do the NBA stuff when Micaleff and Sid got joined together. So I have fond memories of those days. I just love the fact that I keep in touch with those guys. Cav and I were exchanging voice notes last night. I still text them. I was supposed to be on Micalleff's show yesterday, but I had to take my kids tubing. But I've been on Tim's show a few times. I kept in touch with Sid. Sid and I spoke after he got the breakfast television job. Elliote Freidman and I were just on NHL Network together 2 days ago, which was very nice.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Because he's our NHL Network insider. So I have nothing but good things to say about all those guys. Sony is obviously now a very important executive. I talked to Greg about a year ago when he was now I think got the new position at Sportsnet. So it's amazing, man. I tell people all the time we're like the '94 Expos. It was a very talented group of people. I mean, if you look at that group, I mean, it's and all credit to Anthony Ciccone and Dave Rutherford, our bosses, because they really saw that talent between Cab, who I think is as big a personality in Canada as there is. Oh, yeah. Sid and Tim. Tim's a Gemini Award winner. Sid's doing breakfast television, which is enormous. Elliote
he's out there interviewing the Prime Minister and Ryan Reynolds now.
Yeah, Elliote's in hockey in Canada, which you can't do bigger than that. So like between those four guys alone, not to mention Martine Guyard, Sansoni is an executive, Brendan Dunlop, who's a researcher who was on air at Sports. I mean, Jackie Redmond, who was a friend of mine who was with me on NHL Network. I mean, it's crazy. I'm sure I'm missing it, but that'd be Tony and
Donovan Bennett.
Of course, yes. So DJ, I know him as formerly known as DJ Bennett because he was a running back at Western, and then he got the job on air. Like he kind of was shadowing Micaleff. He kind of squeezed in there, and he's been great. He's not only really passionate, but he's been such a great outspoken person about race relations in Canada and just issues of race. Like I mean, I'm really impressed with Donovan, dude. He's been unbelievable. He's been great.
I had Donovan on my show before, and he shared a great story about just him when he was kind of getting into the business as well, and just going as like the Western Mustangs running back and just going to cover things and like Cabby said, I'll vacuum the floors. I'll do whatever. I'll sweep. You let me know what I'm doing, and I will do it. And Caroline Frolic as well too. I believe someone who's worked there. Like it just the copious amounts of people of amass talent that have come out of that network. And like I said, one of the things I grew up watching, it's so cool to see, and it's really an inspiration for me getting into this business and this industry. So I want to thank you for that.
No, that's so nice of you, Josh. I mean, honestly, I steal the line that Letterman used to say about the audience they had on late night early in his years. He goes, I think we're big in colleges and prisons. I felt the same way about the Score. I think we were big in colleges and prisons where everyone wanted to enjoy it. But Caroline's great. Safer, I always enjoy work. Caroline did it, and I did a bunch of shows together on the weekend. We did a late night show at one point. Nikki Reyes, her and I did a morning show at one point. Yeah. Nikki's now doing stuff, I believe, Sportsnet. So like this, it's crazy, man. All of us are working somewhere. It's great.
Oh, it's so cool. Well, Adnan, thank you so much for joining me today. What do you have coming out? I'm sure you have lots of stuff coming out. Like you said, you have the NHL trade deadline coming up, and anything else. What do you have coming up for your projects you work?
Yeah, excited about the NHL Network. My continuing work there. Hopefully, at some point, this lockout gets settled. I'll be back on MLB Network plenty, and Cinephile, my movie podcast, of course, doing well. The Oscars coming up in a few weeks. So we have Chris Kattan coming up on this week's episode, former SNL cast member, Night at the Roxbury, Corky Romano, great storyteller, funny stories about all that stuff. So check out Cinephile and Apple Podcasts. You can subscribe, rate, and review.
Oh, excited for that. And as I figured we were going to run out of time before I got to about 2/3 of the topics that I wanted to talk about. But Adnan, I'll have to have you on again. Thank you so much for joining me.
All right, my pleasure, Josh. It was great fun.
All right, so I'll have to get Adnan back on the show because we didn't even touch, I don't know, half the subjects that I wanted to today. Got great thoughts from him about the Super Bowl and what is happening in the NHL right now. But I would love to have dove a bit deeper into Bruce Boudreau and some of the wrestling. And but kind of had to pick and choose because I wanted to talk about his days at the Score. So all in all, I was really, really happy with chatting with Adnan. And like I said, I hope that everyone really enjoyed that. If you were wondering by chance why we didn't touch on Major League Baseball, it's because there isn't really much to talk about right now. Things are going into a lockout, but hopefully we'll get about 100 games if they're able to stop being so dumb and figure things out. But fingers crossed for that. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the Sports Talk Line YouTube channel, and follow me on Twitter at Joshua Griffith0. We got a busy week this week for the Whitecaps as they have their home opener against New York City FC. So if you need to get caught up with any of that or you missed last week's match and need a recap, check out the 90 Plus podcast brought to you by the Sports Talk Line Network. I have been your host, Joshua Griffith, and this has been the Unnamed Sports Show. Remember to love sports, all sports.